Now we are working on a video called Old St. Vincent number 2. This is around where we left off the last time. Trainwreck Productions brings this to you. Old St. Vincent number 2. And we're looking at St. Vincent at Latrobe PA in the old days, back when the original people who came from Germany, led by Boniface Wimmer, came to St. Vincent. And I had some visitors from St. Vincent. Brother Norman Hips and Father Warren Merman came over to visit, and Father Warren brought a few items, and this was one of them. This was St. Vincent before it was St. Vincent. This was back in the days when it was called Sportsman's Hall. This was called Sportsman's Hall. Okay? What I'm going to do is go into a color version of this that I built. I put the color on. And we can thank the drawing we can thank Reverend Thomas Butler, who around 1832 did the drawing, which I put some color on. The drawing shows Sportsman's Hall. See, before it was called St. Vincent, it was called Sportsman's Hall. It wasn't St. Vincent until 1835. Sportsman's Hall was built around 1790. And around 1810, this little log church was built. Okay? And that's the way things continued until the brick church and the brick pastor's residence were built. Okay? These things were built in 1835. Down here is the original Sportsman's Hall, and it continued for a while there. Now what we're looking at is St. Vincent when it became an abbey. That was 1855. And there wasn't a whole lot there. I mean, this is all there was. This building right here, maybe we can show it to you. I'm circling this building right here. Okay. That is this 1835 building. See, it became part of the Quadrangle. And the Quadrangle was built, first of all, out this way. 1849 was the first actual building. Wimmer and his group showed up at 1846. And by 1849, they had started to make bricks and build. By 1852, they had this corner done. And then 1853, this. In 1855, they built this corner. And we'll see how this fits into the Quadrangle. In the year 1855, Boniface Wimmer was in Rome. He was doing what you might call ecclesiastical politicking, trying to get the place established as an abbey, and he succeeded in doing that. In 1855, St. Vincent became an abbey, and around that time, Boniface Wimmer became abbot. Now, this is the other thing that Father Warren brought out from St. Vincent to share with us. This is the progress of the Quadrangle. This is only about half of it. The other half was made toward the south. This is the northern part, and it progressed this way, finally incorporating here the old 1835 church, and then moving on the whole way over to Placid Hall, and we'll see how that happened. But at this point, we want to record one simple thing. At this point, in 1871, the Benedictines had been there 25 years. And they built a tower to commemorate that fact. And we'll take a look at the tower. That was the old tower that was built in 1871 to commemorate the 25th anniversary of Boniface Swimmer and his candidates to the Benedictine life, arriving at St Vincent in 1846. And as I look at that, I see a room over here, which I recognize. I used to live in there. And the tower itself, I had to crawl up that thing every 3 days to wind that clock. And sad to say, on January 28th, 1963, a really horrible fire broke out at St. Vincent, and this tower became a very efficient flue. Not the kind of thing that you like to hear about, but it happened. This is what we're looking at. The tower was built about right here, and it came up beside the old church. The old church, 1835, the old pastor's residence, 1835, were incorporated into the original quadrangle. And this was the Sportsman's Hall. Now this is where Sportsman's Hall was located, showing it in the context of the present-day basilica. This was the quadrangle. This is what was finished in, well, we could say 1885, when this part of it over here was built. That was Placid Hall. Now this is the northwest corner of the quadrangle. It was called the bandwagon courtyard. This was the bandwagon. And this courtyard was called the bandwagon courtyard. We have another look at it. This was the bandwagon. And in this corner of that courtyard, this was built later. It wasn't, by 1871, this was there. This was what held what we might call sanitary facilities, like, bathrooms and showers, toilets, that kind of stuff. And an interesting fact was, in the earlier days at St. Vincent, the bathroom was called the Texas, as in the state, Texas. This had to do with the fact that Texas was the only state in the Union that permitted prize fighting. And for some reason, I don't know, when there was going to have a fight between a couple guys, they would go to the bathroom and slug it out. So the bathroom became known as the Texas. Okay. This is again that corner of the quadrangle, which was removed actually, and not by the fire. This, we're looking at the same northwest corner of the quadrangle. All this has been removed, but not by the fire. The fire stopped right here at this firewall. And this feature right here, this landform was where the old 1835 church used to sit. And it was totally removed, destroyed by that 1963 fire. That's that same courtyard we've been looking at. This is where the 1963 fire stopped. See, there used to be another story up here. The fire took that, and the fire was stopped at this firewall. And it did not hurt this corner of the quadrangle at all. But for reasons I don't understand, this corner of the quadrangle was removed, which somewhat troubles me because structures, old historical structures, and this was probably the most historical part of St. Vincent because it was the oldest. These old parts tell a story, and the story they tell is that this place came from Germany. The monks who built this were monks who had seen monasteries in Germany, and they built it on, what they remembered from German monasteries. And yet this was removed, part of the story of St. Vincent. And this is the outside of that corner that was removed. I think of this as the old over here and the new over here. This is the new monastery that was built around 1966. And I think we've said enough for this one. This is number 2, and I'm going to push F11 and hope things go along right. Bye now.